Welcome back, everyone. We are now going to talk about how we can style our web page so that we can change the colors, we can change the fonts, we can change the formatting, and so on. So this is very bare bones looking, very 1990s looking type of web page. We want to bring it a little bit closer to the 21st century. So in order to start changing formatting and the way it actually looks, we're going to differentiate between two concepts in web development, which is the separation between content and presentation. So at the moment, our HTML page contains the content, that is the text, the images, etc. Now that we're starting to look at how it's going to be laid out and formatted and changed, we are looking to update the presentation. So one way we can do this is just for demonstration only, we can go into the HTML document, add some attributes, and change the formatting right here as well. So everything's in the one document, which is convenient, but is not necessarily what we're going to do later. Okay, so for example, you don't have to copy along here. This is just a demo. If we wanted to change the font, so this is currently Times New Roman, the kind of the default 1990s font. If we wanted to change this to Arial, what we can do is go into the body tag and then add an attribute called style. Okay, so we've seen attributes before as the source. Here's another attribute. It's called style. I'm going to use the equal sign. And I'm going to go font family Arial. Okay, so if I do that, you can kind of see the font has been updated. Okay, so this is an example where we are changing the style right here in the document as well. That works perfectly fine. Sometimes this is done in the real world too. Okay, but to go back to that concept of presentation versus content, what we would ideally like to do, so I'm just going to delete this, what we would ideally do is to separate it so that our presentation for how the content looks like is saved somewhere else, so we're not mixing the two together. And I'll talk about why that is a nice thing to do a little bit later, okay? So one new line that you might have seen here is line 4. You can see this line has been added into the example project there, and you can see this is the link tag. This is also a void tag because it doesn't have a closing tag. You have a href attribute, which is style.css, and this text here is referring to a file called style.css over here. Okay, so it's important that these two files match up in terms of spelling, and then there's another attribute here called rel, and this is saying that it's a style sheet. Okay, it's going to use the contents of this CSS file in order to style or to format our web page. Okay, so instead of putting it in here like what we did with the body tag, we're going to put it into here. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and start styling our sheet in this style.css. CSS stands for cascading style sheet, by the way. Let's just do what we did before with changing the font, but we're going to do that in our CSS file. So if we flip over to the CSS file, this is a different language. So it's not using HTML, it's not using tags, it's using different type of syntax and spelling. It's called the CSS language, the cascading style sheet language. The way that style sheets work is we need to identify which tags we want to apply the style to. So the style will default apply to everything in that tag and everything inside that tag. So if we change the font in the body, for instance, it's going to change the font of everything that's also children of that body tag. To change the styles of everything inside the body tag, we are just going to type in the name of the tag itself. So body, notice here we're not putting angle brackets or anything, we are just typing the name body, and then afterwards, we're going to be using some funky symbols here, we're going to type in the curly brackets. So a curly bracket that looks like that, it's shift and then the key next to the P key. And I'm just going to press enter here. So what this is saying is, this word here is saying look for every tag that is the body tag inside our HTML document, and then apply all the different styles that's contained between these brackets, these braces, okay? So in order to change the font of the body tag and all of its children, we are going to use the same thing as we did before, font family. Okay, I'm going to type in font family. And I'm just going to press tab to auto-complete that for me. Make sure that there's a colon afterwards, and then anything you type after here will be applied to the font family that's part of any body tags and its children. So in here, I'm going to start typing in Arial. Click on that to finish it off. And then at the end of every style that's applied to the tag there, I'm going to type a semicolon. Okay, so that's the symbol next to the L key. So yes, there are a lot of extra symbols and things here. There's just the extra set of rules that work with CSS files. But once you've done that, let's save that, Control S to save that. If you go back to our CSS file and refresh it, you can see that the font has now all been updated in our web document. So let's go on and change a couple of other things as well. Let's say I want to change Lala the doggy. I want to make that green. I want to change the color of the heading to green. So remember, we want to change the tag H1. So I'm going to go back to my CSS file. I'm going to press enter, type in H1 right there. This is technically called the selector. This is telling CSS which tag we're going to select and change. H1, it's now going to select any H1 tags we have. Here, let's open up my curly brackets again. And we're going to change, say, the color to green. So the style for color is just color. Okay, so it's the American spelling color. And then by default, you have all of these different colors that are auto-completed for you. I'm just going to type in green. Okay, remember to close it off with a semicolon, and you can see in this case it has automatically updated the heading right there to green. Okay, so now we have styled the H1 tag. And then the very last thing we are going to do is I want to maybe put rounded corners on the image here, so it doesn't look so so sharp and angular. So the same thing, I'm going to look for the tag I want to style is image, IMG. So I'm going to go back to my CSS, over into here, IMG, that's my selector for that tab. Open up the curly brackets, and in this case, the name of the style is called border radius. Okay, and then from here, we are going to type in a number that represents how rounded we want the corners to be. So I'm going to say 20 pixels, 20 px. Okay, and you can see the moment I've done that, you've got the rounded corners here. Okay, so you can make this, if you want to make it more rounded, you can make it 50, right, 100, or you can make it very small, a little bit more subtle, 5. Okay, so as you change that style value, you are going to update the image tag on the HTML. So this is an example of how you can use CSS files in order to style your HTML based on selectors and tags.